Choose a start. Okay, so this is the audio razor here. So when you go here, so this one, microphone, you know, something. This one, number one, last number. This one, there's no line anymore. So we don't need this one anymore. Like this anymore.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى ما بعد عن عائشة رضي الله عنها زوج النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يعتكف العشر الأواخر من رمضان حتى توفاه الله ثم اعتكف أزواجه من بعده رواه البخاري. So now this is the last halaqah before the blessed month of Ramadan begins. There's only one more night left, and then the blessed nights and the blessed moments of this month are going to dawn upon us. And like we've been hearing for the past weeks, I'm sure, in this halaqah and in the various other halaqat and talks and lectures and khutbahs that we've been a part of, that these moments there's nothing like these moments, right? So let's take full advantage of these days, these nights, every single second, right? We'll do whatever we can, right? And in today's halaqah, being the last halaqah, I wanted to speak on the topic of i'tikaf, right? So the hadith is narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha. She says that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would make i'tikaf of the last 10 nights of Ramadan, the last 10 days of Ramadan, until he passed away, until he left this world. And then he says, then his wives would make i'tikaf after him. Right? So what is i'tikaf? I'tikaf in essence is secluding yourself in the masjid, right? Restricting yourself in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what i'tikaf is. And the benefit of this is that this gives you an opportunity to kind of take a break from everything else, right? You know how in our societies we have these retreats, right? A retreat where there are no cell phones, there's no signal, you're completely disconnected from the world. And you just go to these places, these retreats, like in the middle of nowhere, and the whole point is just to kind of reboot yourself, focus on yourself for a little bit. Because our life, especially here living in America, is just that it's just never-ending work, right? We never get a moment to think. We never get a moment to reflect. We never get a moment to focus on ourselves. And this month of Ramadan is we should make it a point that this is a time where I'm going to focus on myself, right? Because we need this. Number one, we need this to keep our sanity in this world, right? Doing these things will help you will help you progress in this world, which is why a lot of successful people, what do? On a daily basis, they'll meditate, right? They'll actually meditate. Like really big CEOs, I was watching a documentary of habits of successful people in this world. And one of the common habits that they have is that they take out a little bit of every day, a little bit from every day, just to meditate. Now, what they're meditating on, we don't know. But this is, our deen teaches us to do this on a daily basis, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us to meditate and give time to ourselves. But when we are giving time for ourselves, that is actually time for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages us to give time to Allah. But in that giving time to Allah, there's so much benefit to our own self, right? In this world. And you'll see how you'll recharge, you'll rejuvenate yourself, right? You'll be able to take everything off. This is what salah is, right? Approaching salah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, قُرَّةُ عَيْنِي فِي الصَّلَاةِ, that the coolness of my eyes is in salah, right? What does it mean for something to be the coolness of your eyes? I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. My teacher, while explaining this hadith and the statement of what does قُرَّةَ أَعْيُن, the coolness of your eyes, mean? He said that this is what it means. He said, you're at work, you're tired, you're hungry, right? You've had an extremely long day, right, of just non-stop work, and then you come home and you're cranky and you're hungry, you just want to get in, right? Get in the house and eat food and just take a nap, and you don't want to deal with anything else. and then he says your little 2-year-old comes and yells Baba or Mama, and then it just puts a smile on your face and you forget about everything else. Right? He says that's Qurrata A'yun. Qurrata A'yun is something that makes you forget about your problems. Right? So now when we approach Salah, and this Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam saying, the coolness of my eyes is in Salah. Imagine the concerns and the worries and the problems that would be in our beloved Prophet's minds, where he had the responsibility of the entire ummah, entire mankind. He's always just thinking and concerned, right? Where it says that he would be so da'imul fikr. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, when explaining the sifat of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, one of the sifat is da'imul fikr, continuous, always in a state of fikr, of thinking, right, of concern, right? This is his responsibility, but he's saying, I approach salah as this is a time for me to just forget about everything else, right? Now imagine if we approach salah like that, right? Where 5 times a day Allah is saying, just forget about everything else, forget about the world, forget about your work, forget about all these problems that you have, all these things you're dealing with. Just come and spend some time with me in salah and speak with me, right? Stay and speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in salah. Now, if we were to approach salah like this, now salah would not become a burden anymore. Salah would be something that's so enjoyable to us. And this is how the Sahaba radiallahu anhum approached salah, which was why when they would perform one salah, they would now begin waiting. When is the next salah coming? They couldn't wait for it because it gave them another opportunity to just forget about everything. Right? This month of Ramadan is one of the maqasid of the month of Ramadan, right? Is to seclude yourself and to remove all of the distractions that we have in our world, in our life. We have everything in our life is just distracting us from our actual purpose of existence, right? And the actual purpose of existence is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That's it. The purpose of our existence is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything else is on the side. That is why Allah has created us. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. This is the purpose of our existence. And at times, because we are insan, it is our nature, right, that we get caught up into our day-to-day activities. We get caught up into the things of this world. We get caught up with family. We get caught up with all of these things around us that distract us from our actual purpose of existence. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us this month of Ramadan. And we should approach it as this is a gift from Allah. That Allah is saying, now take out some time for me. And in that time for me, it is actually beneficial for you. Right? And this is one of the reasons why Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would make i'tikaf, to focus on himself, on his own connection with Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. There's so many benefits of khalwa. Khalwa, fa'idatul khalwa. Khalwa is in Arabic, it means seclusion, to seclude yourself. This was a habit of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam even before Islam, right? Where would he go? Where was he given the first revelation? In the cave of Hira, right? And in that cave, this was a habit of his. Khadija radiallahu anha says in one of the ahadith that he would go inside the cave and he would just seclude himself from all of the evils of society, right? And his evils of society were all the shirk that was taking place. He wanted to remove himself and cleanse himself from all of those evils. So he would go inside the clay cave and seclude himself. The scholars, they explain that one of the benefits of his seclusion is Wahi, is that Allah gave him the ability to take the Quran, right? Because accepting the Quran was not easy upon the Prophet, right? The Quran is something that's very powerful. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says in a hadith that it was extremely difficult for me when I would receive Wahi, because it's something that's so powerful, there's so much strength in it, there's so much weight in it. A Sahabi, he says that, or a Sahabi says that when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would receive revelation, in the coldest of nights he would begin to perspire, he would begin to sweat, right? it says that a Sahabi says that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was resting on his leg, and then he began to receive Wahi. And it was the weight was so much that he said, I felt like my leg was going to break. If he was on a camel or if he was on an animal, he would say, if he would receive Wahi, the animal would basically just fall down, right? It would just immediately stop. It wouldn't be able to walk, right? To continue. So the Quran had weight in it. And the scholars, they explain that the benefit of khalwa is that it gave Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam the ability to accept the Quran and allow the Quran to enter into his heart. Right? Yes, it was obviously the decision of Allah, but Allah created the system for him. Right? So now, if we want that closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is at the end of the day, that is the maqsad of everything. The maqsad of Ramadan, of everything in Ramadan, is just to come closer to Allah. Right? Build our connection with Allah. Right? If we want that, then we are going to need to seclude ourselves. Right? And this is not just for men. Right? The hadith says of Bukhari that even the women, his wives, would make i'tikaf. Where would they make i'tikaf? Not in the masjid, but in their homes. Right? Seclude themselves in one place of the home, and that's it. They're going to be there for the next 10 days. Right? And I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to put my work away. I'm going to put all of these other distractions away. Because now this is a time for me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And this month of Ramadan, let's make these intentions. Right? It's only 1 month. It's only 30 days. That's it. Right? Let's make an intention that, you know what? All of my cell phone. Right? I'm not going to waste time on my cell phone anymore. These are just distractions that take us away from the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it doesn't allow us to connect with Allah. Right? Let's just have a retreat, our own spiritual retreat. This is what Ramadan is. It's a spiritual retreat. Right? Let's see what other distractions I have in my life. Right? If it's work and it's possible for us to decrease our work, let's try to decrease our work in the month of Ramadan if it's possible. Right? Let's put our TV away. Right? Let's not spend so much time on the TV and all these different screens. Right? Because all of these things at the end of the day, they just distract us. One of the other comment I was saying, I was watching that documentary on successful habits of CEOs. And one of the other things is, very few of them have smartphones. Very few of them have smartphones. Even who was the one who created the Apple, what was his name? Steve Jobs. Right? I was watching an interview of him. He said, I don't have an iPhone. An iPhone, and he was like, I don't even allow my kids. So then the reporter was like, isn't this kind of hypocritical that you're encouraging everyone else to have it, but you yourself and you don't allow your children to have it, right? So he says, no, when they're old enough, I'll give it to them, because he understands, right? These are smart, and it's not like these people just magically became billionaires, right? They have certain qualities that allow them to succeed, right? Because they know all of these distractions, right? So aren't we as Muslims, right? Shouldn't we also kind of let that set in, and shouldn't we also accept the fact that all of these are just distractions, right? And let's try to look. I just mentioned this in another halaqah that I was giving. I said that we feel like we need to keep our phone on us at every single moment of the day, because what if someone calls me, right? What if someone texts me? I need to reply to that text. Right? 20 years ago, none of us had cell phones. Everyone survived, right? If you weren't at home, and no one called you from the landline, no one answered, that's it, it's done. People survived. World still moved on. Right? Like we have this thing that I need to reply immediately. Right? I'm not saying we shouldn't, but we should restrict ourselves and keep everything to a limit. Because that's not just gonna look at our youth, right? How much is that distracting them, not just from deen, but just from being successful in the world, in their studies. Right? Every parent has the same complaint, that all they do is just spend time on the screen and the phone and this and that. Right? They're not getting good grades. Why? Because the phone and whatever. Right? So let's make this month, let's make these intentions. I'm going to remove these distractions. If possible, let's make i'tikaf. There's a sunnah i'tikaf. Sunnah i'tikaf is you make the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan. Right? But if you can't do the whole last 10 days, and there's restrictions for the sunnah i'tikaf, you have to stay within the boundaries of the masjid, etc., etc. But if you aren't able to do that, then let's just give a few nights. right? Let's dedicate, and even if you can't do it in the masjid, just do it at home. The point is just seclude yourself. You will not get the reward of the sunnah al-kitab, right? But there'll still be benefit, right? The point is just remove all these distractions, right? So I wanted to end off the halaqah with this advice, that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all the ability to remove the distractions that we have in our life, right? And we are intelligent people, we're smart people, right? Let's do our own hisab, our own accountability, and let's see, where am I wasting time in, right? What are the things that if I remove this, I'll have now an extra hour, right? We always say we don't have time. I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. If we really want to make time, we will have time, right? One of the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we see that we just don't have barakah in our time, right? You see the people of the past, right? They accomplished so much in such a short period of time, right? It's because they had barakah in their time, right? Allah has placed the barakah, right? And what is one of the causes of us not having barakah is because we're involved in all these futile things, right? All of these distractions. We were involved in so many things, right? Which is why we don't have barakah in our time. We're not able to say, we just always feel like I just don't have enough time, right? So I'll end off with this. When I was studying, we weren't allowed cell phones. We weren't allowed. Our institute did not allow anyone to have cell phones. But we were from America, so we still had our cell phone, right? And we would kind of hide it and stuff. One day I got caught, and then the cell phone was taken away for the rest of the year, right? And I was just like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to contact my parents. I know they had those pay phones, but it was just so hard that you have to go buy like phone cards and go to the pay phone. It would be cold. It would be difficult, right? And I was like, what's going to happen? This, that, and then like the first few days was hard, and then after that, for the rest like 4 months that I never had my cell phone, I was thinking, should I just go buy another one? Actually, it's for us over there. We're in America, right? So it's very cheap for us. I could just bought another one. But then my teacher, right? He was like, look, I know you can buy it, but just live 1 month without it, and then come back and tell me. He said, if you really need to buy one, I'll take you and I'll buy you a cell phone, right? But then what I noticed is that it's like all of a sudden I just had so much time on my hands, right? All of a sudden I just like magically had like endless time. I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? I can read this book. I can study this. I can do this. I can read this much Quran. I can do this. I can, like, all of a sudden I was like, where was all this time before? We had it. It was being taken away from us, right? It was being taken away from me. So just wanted to end off with that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a month in which we connect with Allah, a month in which we are able to improve our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a month in which we can create good habits within us and remove bad habits, right? A month in which we can spiritually grow, right? Let's all make these intentions, right? Let's not just enter the month blindly, right? The example of entering the month blindly, I gave this in my khutbah, the last week's khutbah. I was like, there's a sale at a store, right? There's a huge sale, like a Black Friday sale, right? Now, one person has nothing in mind of what to get. He just goes and he says, let me just go to the store. He'll spend 2 hours walking around aimlessly, and all the aisles, he'll be like, oh, this is nice, that is nice. He'll come out, he'll get nothing. He's just wasted 2 hours of his life. Then you have another person who just goes and he's checking every sale. He's looking at all the items. He's cross-referencing, making sure that he's getting the best price, right? Those people, they go in the store, they know exactly what aisle. Now you can even know what aisle it's at, right? We go to that aisle, buy that item, walk straight up, right? They're successful, meaning they didn't waste their time. Why? Because they went in with a goal, right? They went in with a goal. So let's not enter this month of Ramadan just mindless, right? And aimless. Let's have aims. Let's have goals. What do I want to accomplish? Just one more night. And then make dua to Allah and say, oh Allah, make this month a beneficial month for me. Accept this month for me. Accept my fasting. Allow me to come closer to you, because at the end of the day, it is nothing that we can plan, we can do everything, but everything is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Which is why one of the du'as of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was what? Allahumma waffiqni lima tuhibbu wa tarda. Oh Allah, give me tawfiq. Give me the ability to do that which you love. Lima tuhibbu wa tarda, and that which will please you. Right? So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept everything from us. Make dua or we should make dua for ourselves. Make dua for everyone else around us, for our communities, our friends. This is a month of dua, right? Make dua for the people that are suffering. Just today, I think a very bad earthquake hit India, in Pakistan, in that area, right? I think where? Afghanistan, right? I think a 7.8 or higher than that, right? And that I can only imagine the destruction that's caused over there. Make dua for all these people that are suffering in Afghanistan, in Pakistan, in India, in Turkey, Yemen, right? Palestine, like everywhere you look, people are just suffering, right? Everywhere you look, people are suffering. We're just living and drowning in luxury, right? Make dua for them. That's the least that we can do, right? And be appreciative and be thankful for whatever Allah has given us. Because wallahi, we have no right to complain about anything, right? When you look at those people that are living in these countries. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.